I'm here today with a friend of Tellil's, Chef Ben Kelly. And Chef Ben has written a cookbook, 5-ingredient cookbook for men. Well, first of all, welcome, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And the last time Ben was here, we probably ate more than we should, because we couldn't help it. It was delicious. So the 5-ingredient cookbook for men, what made you decide to do this?
I've always wanted to write a cookbook, and I do a lot of stuff online, like we were just talking about my blog and stuff like that, and I noticed that the majority of the people who come to my blog or follow me on Instagram or Facebook are women. It's not a lot of men searching for cooking information. And then I started doing research and realized that it's kind of across the board. Men in kind of 18 to 35 range don't really search for information, and the information that is there for them is a lot of like wrap it in bacon and deep fry it. It's not real food. So my whole kind of purpose in life as I see it is to teach people to cook and share knowledge about food. And so I found a demographic that wasn't getting the information they needed, so I decided to write a book for them.
Well, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank
because there are, there's some sort of stigma attached, I think. You are, as women, right, we tend to take care of our men, and that's the old way of thinking, and I think it's time that everybody really thought about it. I mean, there are a lot of male chefs, obviously.
Yeah.
So they must have had an interest at some point in time in their young age.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a broader problem in society right now where young people in general don't cook, but there's a lot of, because of that stigma, young men are less likely to go just grab any cookbook, where a young woman, if she has any interest at all, is likely to just go grab whatever cookbook is available. Where I wanted to create kind of like a safe space for men to learn to cook, if that makes sense. I feel weird saying that, but that's kind of what the idea was.
I understand that completely because, as women, we grow up cooking with our mothers in the kitchen.
I did too.
But not all men do.
No, that's true.
And so it may be a little foreign to them. So I think this is a private place where they can go.
Yeah, and obviously the book's for anybody who wants to learn to cook or just wants to cook, but it's written in a way that young men will kind of understand. So instead of saying like a medium-sized onion, say a baseball-sized onion. So it's more obvious what to get without having that kind of base knowledge.
Right. So, I mean, as a woman, I think it's obviously for women too.
Yes.
It's just that you're looking at an audience that really needs help.
Yeah.
I mean, there are nice things about men knowing how to cook.
Yeah.
As a young man, I think that a young man who wanted to, get the interest of a young lady or a significant other would probably, benefit from knowing how to cook something a little bit different than fried food.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I do is private cooking classes. And before the pandemic, I would go to people's houses and teach them private cooking lessons. And it would be very surprising to most people to realize that there are people out there who literally don't know how to peel a potato. Like literally have never peeled a potato in their lives. And that's the kind of people that this book is for. It's for people who really have no experience at all, men or women, like across the board, but it's just with that kind of masculine lean to it.
Well, as a parent, I know because, you speak to other parents and, you watch your children grow up. We tend to kind of coddle them a little bit too much. So perhaps when they go off to university or move out on their own, they really have no idea what they're doing. This would be a great tool. I
think so. And in the beginning of the book, there's a lot of stuff like how to navigate the grocery store so you don't spend way more than you need to, or you don't buy things you don't need to. A little bit about like the science behind why the grocery store is set up the way it is so that you spend more money, things like that, and just some basic cooking information. So it really is meant to be an approachable book for people of all kind of levels, whether you've been in the kitchen with your mom your whole life or not.
Well, learning how to navigate a grocery store and spending less money is something that appeals to me as well.
Secret is go once a week and be as quick as you can, because the longer you spend in there, the more money you're going to spend.
Oh, yes. And of course, there are aisles targeted with things that will catch our attention.
Yep.
I mean, that's suggestive selling works well.
Absolutely, it does.
It really does. That's probably how we come up with some food in our cupboards that probably aren't as good for us.
And don't get it wrong, I'm guilty of it too.
We all are.
I almost always end up with a bag of chips in the cart on my way home. But the quicker you can get through the grocery store, the better it's going to be on your budget and on your stomach.
Absolutely. So, what kind of feedback have you been getting?
Really, really positive feedback, especially around here. Like, thank you to everybody who's bought books. I really appreciate it, and there's a lot of the digital version of the book is on sale right now, and there's already some reviews up, and they're all positive, and yeah, it's all been very positive.
Well, I'm delighted for you, Ben.
Thank you very much.
I really am, because I know you're a very busy man.
Yeah,
And I know you have a young child.
I do. He'll be a year and a half in just under a month.
Well, I don't know how you do it. I'm just, you know,
I don't know either.
I'm perplexed by the amount, because you do a lot of things.
I mean, depending on how you look at it.
Well, I look at it, okay, well, you know, Ben, you do videos, you blog, you wrote a cookbook in the middle of all this.
I have a podcast,
You
two
have
podcasts.
You're on ATV, aren't you?
Yeah,
Once a month?
usually once a month. Yep. Also, I do a lot on Instagram and Facebook, and honestly, like it's all based on the idea that I want people to cook, and any way that I can help get people in their kitchens, I feel responsible and a sense of purpose to do that. Whether that means, you know, doing all of this stuff or nothing, whatever it is, I just want to help people cook.
Well, I like that you're using healthy ingredients.
Not everything in that book is healthy.
But you are actually, there's an introduction, really. I was kind of glancing through it a bit. It's like an introduction to people who do not know, to different types of foods that they normally wouldn't even have heard of.
Yeah.
So I think that's really positive.
I think so too. I think, like, even for people who've been cooking for years, it's really easy to kind of get stuck in a rut. And if you've never had pad thai, you're probably never going to cook it at home. I should have chose something from the book. I don't think there's a pad thai recipe in there.
Well, it doesn't matter.
But
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but if there's a recipe in there and it's explained in a way that's easy for you to understand and it seems approachable, you'll be more willing to try something different. And my thing with people trying new foods is you never know what you're going to like. Like, you could be missing out on something that's going to be your new favorite thing in the whole world just because you're a little tentative about it or apprehensive. And so if you just kind of take that step, whether it's 5 ingredients or not, I mean, what have you got to lose?
Well, the thing is, I mean, we all, I think we're all in that whole vein of, you know, meat and potatoes, and it's what I'm used to, and I don't, you know, I get it but when I mention to my friends, well, not all of them, but the bulk of them, oh, I love sushi, and I do. Ooh, raw fish. Well, that's not necessarily true, and I try to explain it, but I find myself just giving up on trying to explain it and say, well, why don't you just try it, you know?
Well, and first of all, sushi doesn't have to be raw fish, obviously. Right. There's a lot of different kinds of sushi. But I mean, that's kind of it. When you look at anything with these kind of preconceived notions or a closed mind, you don't know what you're missing out on. Like, maybe you won't like it, and that's fine, but maybe you'll absolutely love it, and why would you deny yourself something that you might enjoy so much?
Well, exactly. I believe in trying new things. You know, I moved to Ontario a bunch of years ago. I lived there for a while, and I decided that I would try every different type of restaurant that I could. You know, I wanted to experience the culinary part of other culture, and I think I did the right thing. As far as pad thai goes, just to mention it, I had a bunch of friends from Thailand that used to live here. They were foreign workers, and my friend and I went there for pad thai one day, and that's all I can say. But you know, that whole notion that 5 ingredients Plus, as you say, water.
Yeah, so it's 5 ingredients, not including salt, pepper, water, and oil. Because, I mean, otherwise it'd be a 1 ingredient cookbook, right?
So, I mean, I think it's, I have a significant other who's never cooked a day in his life, okay? He struggles with bologna sandwiches, okay? He doesn't even put butter on the bread. Anyway, I have decided that this book, which I have purchased because I couldn't wait, is going to be his new lesson every time.
I'm glad.
Well, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to experience it with him.
I'm happy to hear that.
And I will be keeping you informed on
Please
all
do.
the crazy things that come out of his mouth.
And there are some really easy recipes in there, and there are some that are a little more complex, and there's some where, you know, you can kind of take this recipe and this recipe and this recipe and then create something with it, or you can have them on your own, or you can use like a store-bought ingredient instead. So there's a lot of mixing and matching you can do with the recipes as well. So even if something seems intimidating, you can look at, well, this is just these couple ingredients, and then you put it all together.
I think I'll start him off slow. I'll probably just
Probably a good idea.
probably just go through, give him homework, which is great. I think it's a great idea. And if that doesn't work, I'll have you come over and teach him.
Done.
that's going to be my plan B. Okay.
Done.
Because he's going to need help. I'm positive he's going to need help. But yeah, I hope that this is just one of the first cookbooks you do.
Well, me too.
Hopefully you'll do some more, because I think you should. There's humor also in this book.
There is, yeah. It is meant to be like very relaxed and approachable, right? And so, like some of the names, like Hungry Hungry Hummus is one of them.
Yeah.
There's a few other ones in there, and it's just meant to be a nice, fun, relaxed book that if you've never cooked before, you're not going to be intimidated by. Even if you're intimidated by some of the dishes, the book itself and the way it's laid out and the way it kind of guides you, hopefully won't feel intimidating at all.
Well, I mean, I like the idea that you compared, onions to baseballs.
Yeah.
Like in size. Because, of course, that is a question that somebody would ask. Well, what size onion?
Well, that's it. Like a lot of recipes, and I'm guilty of this myself. Like on the blog when I first started, where there's a lot of assumptions made. You assume that your audience has a set level of knowledge, and coming from a professional cooking world, when I write a recipe for professional chefs, it is much different than when I write a recipe for a home cook. And it took me a long time to realize that, and I was able to kind of take that lesson that I learned and then really focus in on it for someone who has no knowledge, or at least I hope that's what I was able to do with the book, where it's like you can't assume anything. Like you can't assume that they know what a medium onion is. And really, I mean, when you look at a bag of onions, there could be a lot of variety there, right? So
sometimes they will look all the same to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I really like that you understand that you had to get to a different way of thinking there. I mean, anybody who's worked in a professional kitchen knows it's not at all glory.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, that's a whole other.
That's a whole
yeah,
other show.
That's a. It can be a very rough industry, but I mean, I owe everything I have in life to that industry, and I love it with all my heart.
Well, either you love it or you don't.
Yeah.
I've known chefs in my life that couldn't wait to get to work, even though it was stressful. It was almost like thriving on stress. But what I like about the idea of this book is that it brings it back to being fun.
Yeah.
Because you can lose your love for cooking if you spend too much time in an industry that stresses you out. I think a lot of people.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've definitely been there.
And a lot of people think, and I always kind of smile to myself when I hear a young person say, "Oh, I'm going to be a chef. I love to cook." Well, that might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
It's not going to be what you think it is. If you love it, great. But it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. But God bless the people it is.
Yeah, and I think that there's a little misunderstanding about what the real life of a chef is like, because of celebrity chef culture and all the cooking shows and stuff. And there isn't really enough talked about. It's a little better than it used to be, but there's not enough talked about the addiction levels and the stress levels and everything that goes along with that industry. Yeah.
I mean, there's pressure in almost every industry, right?
Absolutely.
But that one is a little bit different.
Well, what I always say is if you work in an office or pretty much anywhere, if you don't get all your papers filed, you might get in trouble or whatever, but they're going to be on your desk tomorrow. In a kitchen, if you don't get, an ingredient prepped, well, there's 100 people coming for dinner, and you can't just say this isn't on the menu.
No.
So the work just never ever stops. And what's interesting is when you look at a restaurant and you see it full, like as a customer, you go in a restaurant and you see it full, and you think, okay, well, all these people are just cooking all day or cooking tonight, and you don't even really think about it. But the truth is, those people in the kitchen have been there probably already 6 hours. And when the restaurant's full, that's coming up to the end of their day. That's the kind of pinnacle of it, and then it's all the end. So there's just a lot behind the scene that you don't see a lot.
Yes, and I mean it becomes a family, really, doesn't it?
It does, and I mean, like in the book, in the acknowledgments, there's a couple people in there who I've acknowledged that the book really wouldn't exist without, who are people that I met in kitchens. Some of the closest people in the world to me are people I worked with in kitchens. I mean, I know my wife because of my best friend who I met in a kitchen, and it's when you work in a confined environment under incredibly stressful situations, through literally some of the hardest days of your life, you develop a really strong bond with people, whether you want to or not. And you learn about them in a way that you don't really get to learn about other people because you're going through really such a traumatic thing.
It is traumatic.
That you really just develop this bond that people outside of it just can't understand.
So I can see why you would enjoy what you're doing now as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was in, so I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but I was in a car accident a couple of years ago. My wife and I were. And I injured my neck and my shoulder, and I couldn't work for about 3 years in a kitchen, and I don't even really know if I could do it at the level I used to be able to now. So this really kind of came about as a way to occupy my time and find something to do. Like I had all this knowledge and all these skills, and I needed to find an outlet for them, and that's around that time I was in a grocery store. And I was standing in line. There was like 2 or 3 people ahead of me, and every cart in front of me was just full of frozen food, processed stuff. There wasn't a real vegetable or a real piece of meat. And then I was just like, this is crazy. And that's kind of when it all started for me, where I started writing the blog, and I started doing Instagram, and I started really just pushing my knowledge out into the world to try and help people as much as I could.
What a wonderful way to take something tragic and turn it into something so positive.
Well, what else are you going to do?
Well, not everybody would have done what you did.
No, that's true, but
no, they wouldn't.
A lot of people aren't as crazy as
I don't know if it's crazy. I think it's actually self-aware. And I think that what you're doing is a great thing.
Well, thank you.
And I know that you love to cook.
I do.
I know that you love to share your knowledge. And I mean, what more could we ask for from a budding young chef? I mean, really, you are kind of inspiring.
Oh, well,
actually.
thank you. I don't know about that, but I appreciate it.
I'm inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
I think that anybody, I say younger than me. It seems like everybody's younger than me these days. I think that anybody who's, younger, who is capable of actually communicating what they want to do very well, as you do, I think that's great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I can't wait to see where you go with all of this.
Thank you very much.
And you are welcome back here Anytime at
I
all.
promise I will be back very, very soon.
Well,
In just a couple of weeks.
whenever you're ready, Ben.
Thank
We
you.
will be here with forks waiting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and I would like to say that I will be sharing at the end of this video where you can get a copy of Ben's fabulous book. And make sure to pick up a copy because, you know, you never know.
And you will be able to buy it in every major book retailer as of well, I don't know when this is airing, but as of March 16th.
Okay. By the time this airs, you will be able
Yeah,
to.
yeah, you can get it everywhere, every major book retailer.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
See you again, Ben.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.